Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. My Virtual Obsession, my romantic thriller, is now available on Amazon and other online retailers. This book explores the intersection of loneliness, love, and how chasing perfection through technology can lead to fantasy and reality colliding. My Virtual Obsession out now. Hey everyone, it's Catherine Cristani with another episode of Willow Healing Matters, and today I am joined by Julia Pearce. She is an inspiring presenter, a grief educator, and author whose passion for advocacy, personal lived experiences, and communication is truly remarkable. As a lifelong learner, Julia is dedicated to sharing her space and story to help others in the way that they never thought possible. So a big welcome to the show, Julia.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thank you so much.
So what does it mean that you're a grief educator? That's the first question that pops into my head.
I know, what a fun thing, right? So grief educator is something that I've recently became, but have spent about 30 years learning how to do that. So part of that came because our son survived an illness about 30 years ago. It's been almost that long or longer than that. And grief came to us when he suddenly became ill when he was 2 years old. And during that illness, it was a catastrophic illness. It took all of his development when he was 2 years old. And suddenly, this little boy that we went into a sudden hospitalization was not the one that we were in this journey with. And there were sudden changes and unknowns that we were faced with. And we were in this change and constant illness, and we didn't know if he was going to survive. And in the midst of that, this overwhelming wave of grief came to us like, what is this? And we didn't know what that was at the time. He did survive that illness, and we were sent home with this little boy who was completely changed by that experience. That catastrophic illness is what the doctors called. So that was the start of learning about grief, learning about loss and change and questions and things. And over the next many years, I learned that my expectations of what was coming was another loss and another change. And I grieved what I expected and then celebrated what was right in front of us. And how can you have grief and joy at the same time? I didn't know what that was. It was many years later, actually. Our son had ongoing illness and disabilities that he wasn't really worried about through his lifetime, but those disabilities and those illnesses did end his life. Although he lived just with audacious joy and ridiculous adventure. When his life ended, we then went into another realm of grief and just unknowns. The waves kept smashing us. And that's when I got more curious about what grief is. And it's more than what we had learned in all those previous years. So I became more curious. I learned more. I went to more courses. I became a certified grief educator at that point. It was all of these years of learning that brought me to this almost quest of how do I know how to do this? And is there anything else I can do? Is there anything else I could have learned all those years? The answer was yes to all of it. And what I've come to now is I can live with grief, with sorrow, with mourning, and with joy and grand remembrance. So that's how it came to me. It was over this extraordinary lifetime with our son and now without him.
Yeah, what a beautiful journey, because it is really beautiful. Like, even though it's got the highs and the lows. And I've always found that people who I've met who have been through some of the most traumatic things in their life actually have the most joy because they see how precious life is, and to hold on to the joy when you have it and celebrate it, like exactly like you said.
It was an amazing awareness that came all throughout the time. Was we could see the power of the loss that was coming, the anticipatory grief that was coming, because we saw the immense joy that was right in front of us. And we saw that from the beginning of his life, before his disabilities, before his illnesses, and we can see it now. And what an extraordinary thing, along with moments of deep longing and bits and pieces of regret, even now, still, even though we're like, "Oh, did we do everything?" I do believe that we did everything, living life huge and tiny, like the moments of just being in spaces of joy and big, grand adventures, all of it. I think we did do all of it as well as we could with the knowledge that we had.
And doing what I do with my spiritual work and things, his soul already had a plan and his soul already knew why it was coming there to shake things up for you and to put you through these experiences so that you can help and support others through it as well, because grief doesn't look the same for everybody. You know, as a mother, I couldn't imagine or like losing my child, but at the same time, there are other aspects of grief that can show up in our life. You know, for you as parents, when he got sick the initial time, it would have been like, we're grieving the life that we thought we would have with him, but we're not going to get to do that now. We have to change it and flip and adjust to this different soul that's in front of us now.
Yeah, and that's what we did in the moment again and again and again with gratitude and also, wow, were we going to miss something? Well, if we lived in the missing, we would have missed the living. And I think that edge of don't miss what we're living brought us to the pure joy of what we did live. And that's what I get to sit with now is we lived with the joy and at times also the missing. And that was okay. We could do both. And we really purposefully did do both at times. And that was ours to do. That was mine and my husband's to do. It wasn't for our son to be going down the woe is me path because he was not living in woe. Whoa, whoa, whoa. He was living in whoa, let's go. Like it was like, it is time. So that was also an awareness for us of, can we do this? Because I am here right now in this very moment. We can call it flow. We can call it being present. We can call it just pay attention to the leaves flowing over you, or that, again, the sweet wave just bubbling over your toes and not smashing you in the moment. That was him bubbling with a wave on his toes. And can we still do it? Oh, sure. Yeah, we can.
Yeah. And I love that you bring up those small moments because they can make a difference. You know, it can be, but you have to be open to them too. Like you said, stop living in the woe and tune into the whoa, because it's so important that we notice these things. You know, sometimes for me, like if I'm kind of lost and not being present and just lost in the thoughts and disappointment or whatever it is that's happening in my life, if I come back to, oh my goodness, there's a beautiful little ladybug that decided to fly into my house and land on my kitchen table for some reason. How magical's that? You know, and
Yeah.
even this morning, I was in my kitchen and there was a snail, Julia. I'm like, where have you even come from? Hello, little snail. I don't know if my chickens got to it or not. I did pop it in the compost, so who knows? But at the same time, it was such a cute little, I like bugs don't freak me out, but it was such an interesting little thing to see. But it's like take value and stock in those moments. Is kind of why we're here, right? To enjoy life and to live it and to experience all those emotions. Otherwise, we don't have the highs and the lows.
You know, I really love that. Paying attention to the ladybug, right? Our son loved to jump on a trampoline for hours and hours and hours. He could outjump every cousin, every uncle, every auntie, and then he would lay on it and watch the clouds. And now I find myself watching clouds. I do not have his stamina on a trampoline any longer. I am much older now, but I do watch the clouds, and watching clouds and ladybugs and snails and, you know, tulips opening up, watching them open up and open up and open up. And what pause that can give to us. I appreciate hearing that about ladybugs. It's a wonderful thing.
It is. And see, then I go, what does it mean that there's a snail in my kitchen? And then I go down the whole
Yes, for sure.
spiritual meaning and symbolism. But it was actually a really beautiful reminder about slowing down and just listening to my inner awareness. And that's what it meant, like to actually slow down and be patient, and things are happening. Just you have to take it slowly. I was like, I don't know if I want snail pace, people, but that's fine. Let's try and shift that a little bit. But at the same time, Julia, have you found through your work and learning about grief and through your experiences, is there certain signs or kind of experiences that people might expect? I know it's different for everybody, but I know we talk about the like 6 stages of grieving or something like that, but have you found it's been like that, or it's just all over the place?
For me, it's all over the place. We did go through not exactly stages, but more like waves, or like getting smashed and then coming up for breath. Someone actually described that to us when our son, after he had passed away, we had a medical review of everything that had happened to him with his doctor. And he gave us this analogy. Somebody had shared it with him, and he said, it's going to feel like you're being smashed to the bottom of the ocean and scraped along the coral. And then you'll come up and breathe again. And then it will happen again. And the waves may come a little less frequent. And it did feel like that in the beginning. I didn't feel like I was breathing at all. And then I could breathe a little bit more and look around and see if anybody else was around me. In the beginning, there was, even after his initial illness, I didn't feel like I could even pause. It was a constant survival. And Dallin had survived. That's our son. And I felt like there was just a frantic pace of now what, now what? And then we could pause and look around and look for others. And it was very similar after he passed away. It was a frantic pace. We were supposed to get back to what? I don't know. But we were supposed to get back to work. We were supposed to get back to this life. But our life was so different now all along the way. And I think when people talk about a stage or a time in grief, grief is here because we love somebody. And it happens all along the way. I think there's more times when we can pause and say, what is it that I was expecting? We didn't know what to expect at all. We were looking and we were hopeful, and we weren't hopeful at all at the very same moments and breath sometimes. And then we would come up again, my husband and I, and pause and have hope again that we would always remember our son.
Yeah. And this is like the extremes of, it sounds to me like you are experiencing the extremes of emotions all at once, which is almost, I just kept seeing like a pendulum when you were talking about it. It's like swing one way to the completely and swing the other way. And somehow we have a moment in the middle where we can go and then keep going and then swing the other way and then swing the other way.
Yeah.
And I listened to this podcast years ago, and he lost his wife, and him and his wife are very entwined. They have business together, lots of things, and he felt incredibly lonely to the point he wasn't sure if he would go on. And he was very spiritual, and he went up and he was meditating, and she came up to him and she's like, what are you doing? This isn't honoring me. This isn't living anymore. You've just become a hollow version of yourself. Go honor me and live for me. And that was enough to take him out of it. And then he started teaching again and found himself. But he needed that contrast to remember that, like you said, you do have to keep living. But how do you live through the grief? How do you move through those emotions and the waves that come and go? And I guess it's not going back to normal because it's a new normal, right? It's a new adjustment to how to live without that person you love so much.
Yeah, and I think there's a thought that says you find meaning again, not in the way a person died or that they're no longer here, because there is a space that, grief is anything that you have no longer with you, like if there's a loss that you didn't choose. We didn't choose to have our son pass away. We also didn't choose for him to have that massive illness when he was 2 years old. These aren't things that we had a choice in, but they did happen. So now what are we going to do with it? And after he passed away, like we did pause. we did allow, even while we were going back to work, we took things slower. We stayed tightly together and we had big conversations about, are we going to do this? Are we going to be together in this? Are we going to move forward? And the answer consistently and continually has been, yeah, it's us. Like we're going to be doing these things. And there was a pause in other things. Our son loved music, and I had to pause the music for quite a while. And then it came back. Almost like you mentioned, with this other person, the music came back and it was like, you got to get going again. Like get the music going, get your feet moving again. Like, let's do this. And it was almost as if Dallin was saying, Mom, what are you doing? And I was like, okay, fine. Okay, fine. This is the dialogue in my head. And yet, what is the nudge with the sharp elbow saying, Mom, come on, I gave you all the time I had. Let's get going. Those are sweet, tender mercies and tender kindnesses of perhaps our grief brain or the universe or a God that says, you can do this. Yeah, you can.
And sometimes it is our loved ones coming through and nurturing us from the other side the best way they possibly can and giving us those moments, where it might be a song comes on or a memory pops in your head. Or I don't believe in coincidences like that. I truly believe that there's something bigger at work that's allowing that to come through. And with the work that I do, often ancestors or loved ones that have passed will come through and they're always there. They're always there waiting and supporting. We just have to be open to looking for the signs and to also looking and feeling that they are still near us, even though they can't be in the physical form anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been many times when people have said, do you ever see him? And I'm like, if I turn quickly enough or slowly enough, then he'll be where he always was on my right side, ready to take that arm again. If I do it in the right amount of time, he's sure. Yes, I do think that is still the case. And he's a prankster and he likes to get get a joke on us. And yes, all of those things. How joyful, how joyful.
And cheeky.
Yes, for sure.
I know when my grandparents come through, they're always like this tough love kind of thing. And my grandmother will come through when I'm cooking and she's like, don't do that. And I was like, just sitting there. What do you mean don't do that? You never do that. Like even my husband was breaking the pasta, like the spaghetti. It's sacrilegious in Italian culture. You don't break the spaghetti to fit it in the pot, right? And
yeah,
my nonna is in my ear going, you tell him to stop. Like, okay. But this is where they can still bring joy from the other side. And if Daniel was a prankster in real life, that energy still follows them because it's that light-hearted fun and the woe and the excitement that sometimes we need to get through the hardest times when we're grieving the most.
How lovely. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you're working with others, Julia, what are some tips or some guidance that you part with them to help them get through these times? Because it can be overwhelming, especially for our nervous system when we are in grief.
The bereavement group that I get to do now is specifically listening and saying, what is it you need to say? I think being able to let people say hard things in a space that you can say those things and saying, wow, that's hard. Sometimes that's what people need, is to have somebody say, yeah, that is hard, instead of trying to fix it or instead of trying to say, well, here's 12 things you can do. Acknowledging, yeah, that is hard. Wow, what a time that was. And that's what I think in grief can be really powerful. If people do want to hear more, then things that have helped me over these past, it's been 13 years since our son passed away. Am I okay in this minute, in this day, in this time? And if I'm not, is there one thing I can do? And it could be something like opening a window, or taking a cold drink of water, or perhaps getting soup with a friend. What is one thing I can do? Then try it again in 10 minutes or the next day. So those are a couple of the things that perhaps when it becomes too much, and things often become too much, especially when grief is new. People would say that I'm in mature grief, or it's been a long time, or perhaps they think I'm done grieving, or even that it's not going to bubble up again. And things still come. Things still come on a date or a song or whatever it is. And I need to say, am I okay? And if I'm not, what can I do?
Yeah. And it can be, and I love that you said that sometimes it's being around people that get it and that can truly understand, because we can say to somebody, I understand. But like I said to you, I haven't lost a child. I don't understand that level of grief. I've lost a grandparents, I've lost a cousin, I've lost animals that we've loved, but I haven't lost a child. And it's not to trivialize anyone's level of grief. It's just there's a different level of mourning when you are a parent and you outlive your child.
I think it's different, and I haven't had other types of loss, but we can acknowledge that we don't need to compare, right? I can say, wow, it sounds like that was difficult. Tell me more. I don't need to say, I haven't had the same loss, and so therefore I can't hear you. I can hear. I can be still, and I can sit. Those are things I can do with people, and perhaps knowing that it's not like a piece of pie. There's not an end to grief. So perhaps that's also another thing that we can gently be with each other in compassion and kindness. And maybe one day we'll say, sounds hard. Is there anything more you'd like to say?
Yeah. Beautiful. What a beautiful reminder. And also, just sometimes someone just needs someone to hug them too, and needs to have that space where they can be vulnerable as well.
Yeah.
And as we start to finish our time together, Julia, I ask the guests that come on the show, if you could heal or change something in the world, what would it be?
This is an important question and thought, because as I was writing the book that I shared about our son and part of his adventures, part of his experiences, one of the things was the what ifs. What if I had done this? What if I had done that? And part of it was, what if we were kinder to ourselves when we didn't know more? What if we were actually graceful to ourselves when we didn't have the life experience we do now? And that's what I would share is, if we could turn back our time, our clocks, then what if we gave ourselves the kindness that we're trying to show each other now? And perhaps that's the piece of moving forward. Like, what we can do now is being kind and generous with what we do know, and being graceful and grace forward.
Yeah, I love that. Grace forward. I haven't heard that term. I like it. Thank you, Julia. And tell us a bit more about your book. So is it for sale, or is it just a process of you sharing a beautiful journey that you had with your son?
So the book is called The Boy Who Became More Than We Could Imagine, because that's what Dallin did. People underestimated, or not quite estimated fully enough, the life that he would live once he survived and lived a life of illness and disability and joy, just ridiculous amounts of adventure and all the stuff that came to him. So with him passing away, the books tell about stories. Each chapter is a song. So it leads out with things such as lullabies, and also many things from like Cher and the Beatles, and there's a few other. So they're the titles, and then they share adventures. It's available on my website and also on Amazon. You can find them in both places. There's a playlist that goes with it as well, so you can hear the song and share the book.
That is such a beautiful offering that you've created to honor Dallin. How beautiful. So beautiful. And what is your website, or how can people come and connect with you, Julia, if they want to get support through grief or just want to know more about you or get the book?
Yeah, so my website is juliapearce.net. That's PEARCE. The book is also available on Amazon, and my bereavement group is, you can also find me. It's a private Facebook page, and most of that is available on my website.
Amazing. And I'll make sure to pop the details in the show notes so that everyone can find that who is looking for you. Thank you for sharing your journey through grief and how you are supporting others as well, Julia. I truly appreciate you as a human in this world. And also for all our listeners, if you'd like to support Julia, please go check out her work. Or if you know someone that might need her support, because sometimes we can't get straight through to the people we love. Sometimes we can leave a little seed there to get them the support and show our love that way. So if you reach out to Julia, and if you like it, please like, share, and subscribe. And thank you, Julia, for being on the show. I truly appreciate you sharing your time and your journey with me.
Thank you for being.
Are you looking for an afternoon boost to support you until the children go to bed, or to get through that evening meeting? Why not reach for a cup of ceremonial cacao? It will boost your energy, reduce your inflammation, and also allow you to go to sleep at a decent hour. For more information on how to grab your ceremonial cacao, check out the link in the show notes for 10% off.
Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.